Hey, it's a shame points to the word. This will be a new topic. I'm gonna call it like marriage slash roles that God has given us. So this is just an introduction on basically what I'm going to cover on that. And the reason like for this is actually I'm teaching my 6-year-old son basically like what roles God has given us for male, female, and then husband, wife kind of thing. So yeah, this is the reason like so as I'm teaching him, I'm basically want to kind of put out there what roles God has given us and all that. I'm no expert on this kind of thing, but I do have experience as far as what it's like to be an unbeliever in a marriage to a believer, and then to go through all that. So yeah, basically speaking through experience and confirming that the Bible is true, and everything like that. So the main topics I'm going to talk about is one, God gave Eve to Adam because he had no helpmate or helper. Two, Jesus talks about marriage. Three, don't marry an unbeliever. And that's ironic for me. And so four, woman's roles that God has given her. And then five, man's roles that God has given her. So that's just the introduction. Hope you guys find this useful. I pray that this would be edifying toward Christians, and that people may be saved by these kind of videos too. But I pray that souls will be saved, and I pray that Jesus Christ be magnified. Hope you guys have a great day. Bye. Hey, it's a shame point to the word. This will be part one of marriage and roles that God has given us. So this one will talk about God gave Eve to Adam because he had no helpmate or helper. So I'll be starting in the book of Genesis, chapter 2. We'll go through verses 18 through 24. And that'll give us a good basis of what God initially set up for everything and how he wanted it. So, starting in verse 18, and the Lord God said, "It is not good that man should be alone, and I will make him a help meet for him." So before all this, basically God had made like animals and stuff, and Adam, he put Adam in charge of like naming all the animals and stuff like that. And so I'm sure Adam had seen this, how they had companions for the animals. So I don't want to put add to scripture or anything like that, but I don't want to take that very seriously. But perhaps it was thought that, to Adam, like hey, where's my helper kind of thing. So like I said, I don't want to infer too much, but continuing, yeah. So God said to Adam, "It is not good that man should be alone. I will make him a helpmeet for him." And out of the ground the Lord God formed every beast of the field and every fowl or bird of the air, and brought them unto Adam to see what he would call them. And whatsoever Adam called every living creature, that was the name thereof. And Adam gave names to all the cattle, and to the fowl or birds of the air, and to every beast of the field. But for Adam there was found there was not found a helpmeet or helper for him. And then the next heading is, before between like verses they'll have like a bold heading. So the heading says, "God creates woman as a helper for the man." Now verse 21 of chapter 2, Genesis chapter 2. And the Lord God caused a deep sleep to fall upon Adam, and he slept. And he took one of his ribs and closed up the flesh instead thereof. So yeah, he basically performed surgery. So he took one of the ribs out and then closed it up. And the rib which the Lord God had taken from man made he woman, and brought her unto the man. And Adam said, "This is now bone of my bones, and flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman, because she was taken out of man. Therefore shall a man leave his father and his mother, and shall cleave unto his wife, and they shall be one flesh." So And you teach, like I said in the introduction, how, I'm teaching my kid, my 6-year-old, this stuff because, it's very vital. I basically want to teach him, what I, never really had taught, to myself when I was a kid. So, I want the best for my kid, so I want, to teach him these kind of things. I want to put a lot of effort into that because I know how valuable it is to, for the salvation that God has given us. So, and you can find that, I have testimonials. If you want to, find that out in my other playlists. So, but anyway, so I'm teaching my kid, basically that, leave and cleave. I'm trying to break it down for him. First, the man will leave his, mother and father, and then they'll cleave unto, their wife, and that kind of thing, or, vice versa. A woman will, leave her parents and then cleave into a man. So, later on. And part 2 will actually talk more about that because Jesus talks about that in marriage. And this verse is very vital. Therefore shall a man leave his father and his mother and shall cleave unto his wife, and they shall be one flesh. Jesus talks more about that, and we'll talk about that in part 2. So I hope you guys have a great day. Bye. Hey, it's a shade point to the word. This will be part number 2 of marriage and roles God gave us. And this one will be Jesus talks about marriage. So last time we were in Genesis, and we were talking about leaving and cleaving, and how we mainly talked about that in the book of Genesis. And so we're going to take that idea and go forward with what Jesus says. So I'll start in Matthew chapter 19. I'm going to go through verses 4 through 9. So the Pharisees are asking him, tempting him to Jesus. And now I'll start in verse 3, actually. So the Pharisees also came unto Jesus, or him, tempting him, and saying unto Jesus, Is it lawful for a man to put away his wife for every cause? And he answered and said unto them, Jesus did, Have you not read that he which made them at the beginning made them male and female? So, talking about God. And said, For this cause shall a man leave father and mother, and shall cleave to his wife, and they two shall be one flesh. Wherefore they are no more two, but one flesh. What therefore God has joined together, let not man put asunder. And then they said to him, Why did Moses then command to give a right of divorcement, and to put her away? And Jesus said to them, Moses, because of the hardness of your hearts, suffered you to put away your wives. From the beginning it was not so. Hardness, basically, like when we have a conscience and everything like that, like the Bible talks about, basically, your heart could be, of stone, or, seared with a hot iron, and so, the harder your heart is, it's, you're not going to have that humility, or, be humble for that. And so, God resists the proud, gives grace to the humble. And, the harder your heart is, that's, the further away, you're going to get that, correction and stuff like that. So, it's definitely not something you want for anyone, myself included. So Jesus said, at the beginning it was not so. And I say unto you, whosoever shall put away his wife, except it be for fornication, or some, versions will say, sexual immorality, and shall marry another, committeth adultery. And whoso marries her which is put away does commit adultery. So, basically Jesus is tying this with, Genesis, going right to the heart of the matter, like always, going right to the root instead of, a lot of times we'll have, debates or arguments or whatever, and, that's what we want to do. We want to go, straight to the heart of the matter. We don't want to, be swinging at, branches and, as a, picture. You want to go right to the root. We don't want to waste time, because, time is something we don't have a lot of. And, you know, some people, when you are talking to them about, Jesus and, things of, regarding salvation, especially in the year, 2020, too, like, people, a lot of people have, short attention spans, so, you'd love to spend, a whole bunch of time, with people, kind of like, chipping away, but, it's not usually, something we have a lot of. And the Bible does say, that we can water and plant, but God, gets the increase. So, it's something that we have to, really be aware of, when we're, talking to people about Jesus and, things of that nature. Like, we don't have a lot of time, and, that's the reason we're here. We're not here, to eat, drink, and be merry. Like, we're, that the world is doing that. We're here for a purpose. So, anyway, yeah, so, like, this talks, it really gives, a lot of good information about, basically, from the beginning, it was so, this is how God made it. This is how He wanted it. You know what I mean? Like, you hear, like, when I went to school, it was, back in, the early 2000s, it wasn't like it is now. You had, like, with, this month being, Pride Month, or, quote unquote, month of June, there was, one or two, gay people in our, school, and, you always hear, God made, Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve, that kind of thing. So, but from, reading the scripture, like, back then I'd hear that, but I never really read, the Bible. But, now it's, pretty clear, like, God, made it that way for a reason, and so God made man, and then He made, woman as a helpmate, helper for, man. So, and Jesus reiterates here, and a lot of people, especially now, will, who are, promoting, the gay agenda, or, whatever. I like to call it the homosexuality, or, sodomy. I don't, like to go to these, certain names that people have. I feel like when they say gay, or, whatever, that just, it waters down sin. You know what I mean? Like, I try to name the sin that, what the Bible calls it, I don't know, people just, water it down, like, I don't know, it diminishes the full effect of, what's called, and, things like that. So, yeah, but Jesus gets right down to it, from the beginning, like, literally, like, He answered and said to them, the very first thing He said, have you not read, that He which made them at the beginning made them male and female, you know what I mean? And so that's the way God made it. And, people, like, people who promote the gay agenda, or, getting back to my other point, people that promote the gay agenda or are gay themselves have asked, mocking, like, had the question, like, oh yeah, Jesus never said anything about, homosexuality in the Bible. I mean, and I mean, it's like they're basically looking for, to have the verse where, like, Jesus, talks about, what I mean, like, you basically, they want you to find, like, a Bible verse that says, oh, thou shalt not, partake in homosexuality, such as Jesus, you know what I mean? Like, they would, and honestly, even if that did exist, would they listen? And, that's one of those things. Like, I've been talking to, a lot of people on, Facebook and stuff, and I've seen, the hardness of heart, and just, the blind like absolutely blind. Blindness that it I don't know. It's crazy. Like an example I can give, just happened like yesterday and today. There's a guy who I just found out he's gay. He was I made these posts like I'm trying not to get off topic, but it's kind of relevant. But um, so basically, like the whole month, June, Pride Month, quote unquote, like I've been finding verses in the Bible that says, pride or proud, and there's tons. I even said, God resists the proud, gives grace to the humble. Like that's one of them. But I'll put like one a day, like so far. And so I've been doing that, and this guy's been like commenting like just love is love kind of thing. And I look on his profile, and I expect it to be an atheist. It's a professing Christian. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, well, I would have never thought. And so, like, he was saying how, I've read the Bible, 4 times. How many times have you read it? Like all caps, like you. And I'm like, I mean? Like, just the pride is just off the charts. Like, I'd respond. I'm like, I don't remember how many times, but I've read some books of the Bible more than others. I don't, I haven't, I don't have it, tallied or anything like that. I just, kind of do it, and I need to do it more. But yeah, like, I don't know, like, just certain like the the ABCs or the just Christianity 101 is just. I would tell this guy these things who has apparently read the Bible, 4 times, and he doesn't understand. It's blindness, and so I don't know. But yeah, I like I said, I don't want to go off too much off topic, but it is kind of relevant because this is one of the verses you can go to, that have you not read from the beginning, He, which made them at the beginning, made them male and female for that purpose. God had that purpose, and that's just the way it is. You know what I mean? And who are we to, try to make something unnatural that God made natural? You know what I mean? And that just goes to Romans 1. I think it's like verse 26. Like, I'll jump to it, I guess. Since we're just rambling, might as well go to it. Let's see here. I find the book of Romans. I'm so used to like going on the internet and like finding stuff. But yeah, like having troubles. But yeah, so like it talks about how like the natural and the unnatural stuff like that. So I am just getting done with work, and so I'm here. It is. Having like a brain fart. Yeah. So it says, was it 26? Yeah, it was. Yeah, so Romans 1, chapter 1, verse 26. For this cause God gave them up unto vile affections, for even their women did change the natural use into that which is against nature. So, yeah, that took a little longer than I wanted it to. Yeah, I thought it was after Acts. Oh, that's why. Oh, okay. Totally get it. I have those, like, tabs on the right side of the Bible, and I'm looking for like ROM. I'm like, where's Romans? Anyway, yeah. So, like, it just says, it's not natural, and who are we to, tell God, what, hey, I don't think that's right. Like, basically, like, Job kind of, like, who am I? So, anyway, I'm totally rambling, and so, yeah, I just want to really make it clear how Jesus goes straight to the matter. It's like God made them male and female, and so yeah, I just want to get that point across. And yeah, so basically, yeah, leave and cleave. And then, they asked him, why did Moses give a command to give a, right of a divorcement? And, Jesus says, hardness of your hearts, you know what I mean? So, and, except for fornication, you basically, stick together. Otherwise, you're committing adultery. So I'll end it there before I go on another rabbit trail. Hope you guys have a great day. Bye. Hey, it's a Shane Point to the Word. This will be part number 3 of marriage and roles God has given us. So I wanted to include real quick. So the verse I've been kind of quoting the past couple times. For this cause shall man leave his father and mother, and shall be joined unto his wife, and they two shall be one flesh. My friend Bruce actually just posted this on Facebook today, and I thought it was only in like 2 places that this could be found, but so it's in Genesis 2, Matthew 19, and then now in Ephesians 5, verse 31. So I thought that was kind of cool. I wanted to include that real quick before I forgot. So yeah, you can find that verse in more than 2 places, so that's cool. Yeah, for this cause shall a man leave his father and mother, and shall be joined unto his wife, and they two shall be one flesh. So yeah, I thought that was cool. And so today I'm gonna focus on why basically you shouldn't marry an unbeliever if you're a believer. So basically, piggybacking off of that, two saved believers should be uniting as one flesh, because I can only speak from experience how half of my relationship with my wife, we've known each other since 2011, so we're 11 years, and about, I want to say, four of those 11 years, about 4 or 5 were very rocky and just super like rough, and and like after that, I don't want to say it's been smooth sailing, but it's been just night and day. So it's very important that as believers we really try to do our homework and really make sure that we're gonna date, court, whatever, another believer, and make sure they're genuine, because I was telling my son, like, there's believers, there's unbelievers, and then there's kind of those that profess to be believers, but they act like unbelievers. And so unfortunately, this day and age, we have a lot of those among us. And so Jesus said you'll know them by their fruit, and things like that. So that's really where discernment comes in play. So really need to be relying on God for all that stuff. So but yeah, I want to talk about a couple things. They're both actually in the book of 1 Corinthians. So first one's in 1 Corinthians 11, verse 3. But I would have you know that the head of every man is Christ, and the head of the woman is the man, and the head of Christ is God. So basically, this, honestly just sums up, in a nutshell, everything about, the series I'm doing, so, God is the head of, Christ, and, I'm sure that's a role, kind of thing, I do believe in a Trinity, so, I'm sure that's, some kind of role, but yeah, so like, and then, the head of every man is Christ, and the head of, the woman is man, so, it falls right down in line, and, like I was, telling my son, since, we've been on this topic, like, God has given us different roles as, men and, man and husband, we're ahead of the woman, so we're, I try to, break it down in terms, he understands, so I'm like, we're, boss, we're like,
the leaders, but, God made, Eve a help for Adam, and that absolutely does not mean that, we just get to boss, women or our wives around. That's not, the reason God gave us that role, for our own, selfish, pleasures or, carnal, reasons like that. So, and, things I'm going to be reading, later on, I know women that, have been, are in these, submissive kind of, roles and, servants, and, then that's awesome. And the men, will take advantage, unfortunately. And, they're basically like, kings, and, they act just, tyrants, basically. So, that's absolutely something that we don't want to do. And, our role as a man is a leader, and I'll go over that in future videos, Lord willing, because we're not talking about the roles of man right now. But I just want to briefly cover that in this section, that that is how God set that up, and it's not something that we should boast of, or things like that. So anyway, going back to the main topic of you should not marry an unbeliever. I'll go to 1 Corinthians chapter 7, and in the heading it says Paul discusses marriage. So this might be a long read, so I don't know if you might want to pause this video and kind of stand up and run around, or I get it, like once a person's reading something, your mind kind of shuts off, and your eyes glaze over. So I don't know, try to entertain yourselves, and pray to focus on what's being read in the Word. So 1 Corinthians chapter 7. Now concerning the things whereof you wrote unto me, it is good for a man not to touch a woman, nevertheless to avoid fornication, or some versions will say sexual immorality. Nevertheless, to avoid fornication, let every man have his own wife, and let every woman have her own husband. Let the husband render unto the wife due benevolence, and likewise also the wife unto the husband. The wife has no power over of her own body, but the husband, and likewise the husband has not power of his own body, but the wife. Defraud ye not one the other, except it be with consent for a time, that ye may give yourselves to fasting and prayer, and come together again, that Satan tempt you not for your incontinency. But I speak this by permission, and not of commandment. So now, Paul is basically, talking. For I would that all men were even as I myself, but every man has his proper gift of God, one after this manner, and another after that. I say therefore to the unmarried and widows, it is good for them if they abide even as I, but if they cannot contain, let them marry, for it is better to marry than to burn. So now the next header says marriage vows are to be taken seriously. And unto the married I command, yet not I, but the Lord. So now this is so this is what the Lord's saying. Let not the wife depart from her husband, and if she does depart, I'll say it over because I'm stuttering my words. And if she departs, let her remain unmarried, or be reconciled to her husband, and let not the husband put away his wife. But to the rest speak I, not the Lord. So now Paul's talking. If any brother has a wife that believes not, and she be pleased to dwell with him, let him not put her away. So it's saying if any man, has a wife that doesn't believe, so an unbelieving wife, and she be pleased to dwell with him, let him not put her away, so she wants to, be with him, that's fine. And the woman which has a husband that doesn't believe, an unbelieving husband, and if he be pleased to dwell with her, let her not leave him. Okay, so that would be in my situation exactly what happened with me. the woman which had a husband that didn't believe me, and if he be pleased to dwell with her, let her not leave him. And that was a case. There was like a short stint in like 2013, where like, yeah, I almost wanted to break up with my wife, fiance at the time. But I stuck around. And anyway, so continuing in verse 14, for the unbelieving husband is sanctified by the wife, and the unbelieving wife is sanctified by the husband. Else were your children unclean, but now they are holy. But if the unbelieving depart, let him depart. A brother or sister is not under bondage in such cases, but God has called us to peace. Okay, so, if, back then, the unbelieving, if I departed, if I left, that would be fine. That would not be, under bondage in that, kind of case, because God calls to peace. And so the last verse, for what knowest thou, O wife? And okay, so I'm gonna pause here. This, wake up if you guys are falling asleep. This is like, how people have like life verses and stuff like that. Like, this is literally mine. Like, this, I said in like the introduction, whatever you want to call it, like video for this series. Like, I can totally attest that the Bible is true, and this right here, this verse is like my life verse, and like this verse means so much to me, because I lived this. Verse 16, 1 Corinthians 7, verse 16, for what knowest thou, O wife, whether you shall save your husband, or how knowest thou, O man, whether you shall save your wife? So obviously, save, like your wife's not saving you, your husband's not saving you. Obviously that's the power of Jesus Christ. But like the woman or man, the believing husband, the believing wife, should direct the unbelieving spouse in the direction of Jesus Christ, for salvation. So I'm sure that's what that verse means. But yeah, that verse means so much to me personally, because I lived through that. And so I'll probably end it there. And then next time we'll probably talk about roles of women and stuff like that. So yeah, hope you guys have a great day. Bye.
Hey, it's a Shane Point to the Word. This will be part number 4 of marriage and rules God gave us. So last time we talked about not to marry an unbeliever. So basically, like, the best marriage in this world is going to be with two believers, walking in the Spirit and not in the flesh. So that's like the most ideal relationship you can find, basically. So today we're going to be talking about roles that God gave to women. So a lot of this stuff will like bleed over, because I'm talking about roles that God gave to women and husbands. So like a lot of the stuff that I'm going to read, it's not just going to be only the wives and women. Like, some might bleed into the husbands too. So I'll read the whole account, like, regardless, so you guys can, like, you might hear the same thing more than once, and it's honestly good to have that repetition. So anyway, so it's going to be in 1 Peter chapter 3 is the first place I'm going to go, and I'll probably stick with this whole chapter minus one verse, because it's like 21 verses long. So if you guys want to pray for focus on this stuff, I know, like, reading 21 verses straight, like, we can kind of tune out, so definitely if you have to pause this or play, definitely go ahead, feel free. So the header says instructions for wives and husbands. So likewise, you wives, be in subjection to your own husbands, that if any obey not or don't obey the word, they also may, without the word, be won by the conversation of the wives. So This really, I don't know, it really pointed out and stuck out to me because, it's important for a wife to be, in submission to the husband. And now I know, obviously, the world we live in, the year 2022, like, there's a lot of feminism and stuff like that. And, this is totally, opposite of what, a lot of people have been taught. So I get that. And, I do want to really focus on that because a lot of people will, abuse these kind of things. Like it's, especially if, a relationship with, a believer and a non-believer, which is what this is talking about. So I do want to stress, I want to, try to cover all of my bases here, when I talk about things like this, because, I don't want to, I don't want it to seem like I'm condoning, like abuse and stuff like that, because, and the reason I even mention that is because, there's a lot, I don't advocate women, just, staying in an abusive relationship or, stuff like that. And obviously that goes for, husbands too. If they're, being attacked or, because that stuff does happen too. I don't want to be ignorant of that, but I don't advocate, that kind of thing. So, obviously if, you're in a relationship where it's, physically abusive or, something like that, obviously, seek help, pray to God, really seek out, what to do in that situation. I'm not at all saying that, well, the Bible says, so you gotta stick with it. You know what I mean? Like, the Bible doesn't, absolutely cover, 100% of the stuff. So, you know what I mean? Like, otherwise the Bible, be like a humongous book, So, I mean, I feel like, God has given us, enough, in His Word to kind of, go with these things. So, obviously, don't stay in an abusive relationship. Don't, submit, that, in that, kind of way. So, I do want to, start off with saying that. But anyway, going back, like I do, find this interesting because, by a wife submitting, it's showing, the picture that I think God wants to show us. Like I said, in I think it's 1 Corinthians 11:3, what I talked about before in the last video. Talked about, the head of, Christ is God, and the head of, man is Christ, the head of, a woman is man, that kind of thing. And, it's kind of like a picture of the church. The man is, a symbol of, Jesus Christ, and, the woman is a symbol of the church. So I feel that, taking that knowledge and reading this first verse of 1 Peter 3, it talks about, a wife being in subjection to their husbands, kind of like a picture of the church. So I think that's very interesting. So I'll read that again. Likewise, you wives, be in subjection to your own husbands, that if any obey not or don't obey the word, they also may without the word be won by the conversation of the wives. So, yeah, I think that's important, because to me it sounds like, a believing wife, talking to her unbelieving husband, you know what I mean? And so, yeah, I get that. I was there, like 7 years ago, I was there. Actually be about almost 8 now, but yeah, like I get it. So continuing on, chapter 3, verse 2, while they behold your chaste conversation, coupled with fear, whose adoring let it not be that outward adoring of playing of the hair, and of wearing of gold, or of putting on apparel or clothing, but let it be hidden. Let it be the hidden man of the heart, in that which is not corruptible, even the ornament of a meek and quiet spirit, which is in the sight of God of great price. So I love that verse too. Especially like now, June being, Pride Month and all that. Like I've been posting a lot of stuff about, I'll like every day I'll put a verse about what the Bible says about being proud, or pride in the Bible, as like a kind of you know like, I don't want to say attack, but you know what I mean, like defending the Bible kind of thing. So I'll put what pride and what being proud really is, instead of what the world is pushing, what definition the world wants us to think it is. So I've been putting that stuff, and I've been like seeing a lot of verses that I'm sure I've read before, but it's been a while, or just it's crazy. But yeah, I keep, because the one verse, God resists the proud, gives grace to the humble, like that's stuck in my mind. I taught my 6-year-old son that verse, and he knows that verse. But now I keep like kind of seeing throughout the Bible, especially since I've did those like posts on Facebook about pride and proud. Like a lot of that stuff is coming up, because it's what's the opposite of pride and proud? Humble, humility kind of thing. So verse 4, but let it be the hidden man of the heart, and that which is not corruptible, even the ornament of a meek and quiet spirit. That's the opposite of pride, which is in the sight of God of great price. So God loves that. He resists the proud, but gives grace to the humble. Like all connects. I love it. Chapter 3, verse 5. For after this manner, in the old time, the holy women also who trusted in God adorned themselves, being in subjection unto their own husbands, even as Sarah obeyed Abraham, calling him Lord. That's lowercase Lord in here, so she's not calling him God or anything, but basically like boss, or whatever you want to call it. Even as Sarah obeyed Abraham, calling him Lord, whose daughters you are, as long as you do well and are not afraid with any amazement. Likewise, ye husbands. This is where it's bleeding over to husbands. So I'll keep reading. Even though this teaching is right now roles God gave women, and the next one will be not next video, but the next topic will be roles for men, because there'll probably be another video or two between roles for men and women, because there's a lot to talk about in the Bible. The roles for women probably won't be covered in this video alone. There'll probably be another one or two after this. So anyway, likewise you husbands dwell with them according to knowledge, giving honor unto the wife as unto the weaker vessel, and as being heirs together of the grace of life, that your prayers be not hindered. So I love this verse too. So it talks about what do wives need to do. What is the role of a wife? To be in subjection to your own husband. And now we read ahead in verse 7. Okay, so wife is subject in subjection rather to the husband. So what is the role of a man or a husband? Likewise, ye husbands dwell with them according to knowledge, giving honor unto the wife. So that is the role of the husband, giving honor unto the wife, making them important, being responsible for them. So likewise, ye husbands, like this verse is like packed full of awesome stuff. Likewise, ye husbands dwell or live with them according to knowledge, giving honor unto the wife as unto the weaker vessel, and as being heirs together of the grace of life, that your prayers be not hindered. So, and as being heirs together of the grace of life, like I was, telling my kid, like, like in our roles, when you marry a wife, or, when dad, how dad is married to mom, mom is in subjection to me, which, makes me her boss, because that's the role God gave us. Now, again, that doesn't mean that we manipulate or we, take advantage of that role for our own, carnal use, or our own, sinful objectives, or anything like that. Like, that is not what, that is an abuse of power. So, our, power, if you even want to call it that, like, our, we have leadership, and our responsibility, are our wives. And so, I was explaining to my kid how, we're, the boss, okay, but, please understand that, we don't abuse that. And then
because it does say in that verse, and as being heirs together of the grace of life. So I believe that means that, God has given us these roles. That's true. But, it doesn't mean that, a husband or a man's salvation is better than a wife's, if that makes sense. It says heirs together, of the grace of life. So, I think that's important, just to, God, views our salvation as equal, even though our roles are different. So, and then the next header says, show brotherly love. So, finally, be all of one mind, having compassion one of another, love as brothers, be pitiful, be courteous, not rendering evil for evil, or railing for railing, but contrariwise blessing, knowing that you are thereunto called, that you should inherit a blessing. For he that will love life and see good days, let him refrain his tongue from evil, and his lips that they speak no guile. Let him stay away from evil or eschew evil and do good. Let him seek peace and ensue it. For the eyes of the Lord are over the righteous, and and his ears are open unto their prayers, but the face of the Lord is against them that do evil. So, kind of shake it off and, kind of focus and I don't know. Like I listen to a lot of videos and stuff, so I want to be aware of how you guys are on the other end. So let's continue on to verse 13. Let's be active and let's listen. So, and who is he that will harm you if you be followers of that which is good? It kind of reminds me of be afraid of God, who can I'm paraphrasing, I should have pulled this up, I just thought of this now, but don't be afraid of them who can kill your body, but rather be afraid of him, God, who can kill your body and soul, kind of thing. So God is basically he is already conquered this world, so who cares, you know what I mean? So that's why this whole thing reminds me of in verse 13. And who is he that will harm you if you be followers of that which is good? And if you suffer for righteousness' sake, happy are you, and be not afraid of their terror, neither be troubled. But sanctify the Lord God in your hearts, and be ready always to give an answer to every man that asks you a reason of the hope that is in you with meekness and fear. So again, meekness and fear. You know what I mean? You talk about pride and humility. So it says meekness and fear. And this talks, it seems like for both, not just, woman or, husband, wife or husband. So having a good conscience, that whereas they speak evil of you as of evildoers, they may be ashamed that falsely accuse your good conversation in Christ. So I think that's the goal, honestly. That is the goal, kind of being like, Old Testament, kind of like a Joseph, you know what I mean? They accused him of, a whole bunch of stuff, and, he was innocent. Or even like a Daniel, it reminds me of Daniel too, because, I don't remember exactly how it's phrased, but basically they're trying to trap Daniel by, they made that law, to basically, pray to the, king or whatever. I think it was the one after Nebuchadnezzar. And so they're like, we can't trap Daniel, so we'll just, be him at his own game, kind of thing. So, it reminds me of that, how, Daniel was, he was, righteous, that they couldn't trap him. They couldn't accuse him. They could, they had to, basically play dirty just to even trap him. So, I don't know, it kind of reminds me of those two people in the Bible. So, for it is better if the will of God be so that you suffer for well-doing than for evil-doing. You know what I mean? So, and that would hurt your, as a believer, that would hurt our, a certain word I'm looking for, I can't think of it now, but kind of like reputation. Obviously it's not about us, but it would, kind of like our testimony too. There's a certain word I'm looking for, I can't think of it, but that, like, we want to, do good, obviously, to please God, but we also want, others to, a witness. I think witness is the word I was looking for. We want to be a good witness for Christ. And, if people, see us doing, wrong, then, you hear it so often with atheists, or, anyone who, doesn't want to go to church, or, believe in God, kind of thing. Like, oh, they're a bunch of hypocrites. And, what I mean? We don't, and then, we argue like, oh, that's not Christ, that's, the Christians, and, what I mean? Like, it's true, like, Christians kind of, ruin that, and, we need to be so, focused on that. And so, here my dog comes. I wonder if you'll see her in the video. So I'll say hi, Zoe. Say hi. Okay. Anyway, so we just got a new dog a few days ago, so you photobombing. All right, so anyway, got a few more verses. So yeah, continuing on, so the Christians, people always say like, oh, Christians kind of, are a bunch of hypocrites, and so, good girl. They say they're a bunch of hypocrites, so we don't want to tarnish that, on us. So we don't want to tarnish anything. We want to be so careful not to do that. And so, yeah, for it is better if the will of God be so that you suffer for well-doing and for evil-doing. For Christ also both once suffered for sins, the just for the unjust, that he might bring us to God, being put to death in the flesh, but quickened by the Spirit. So that is an incredibly important verse. For Christ also has once suffered for sins, the just for the unjust. Jesus Christ is the just, and we're the unjust. That's so important to understand. And that he might bring us to God. That's the destination. And being put to death in the flesh, and that's the gospel. So that is such a jam-packed verse. But quickened by the Spirit, by which also he went and preached unto the spirits in prison, which sometime were disobedient, when once the long-suffering or patience of God waited in the days of Noah, while the ark was preparing, wherein few, that is, 8 souls, were saved by water. The like figure whereunto even baptism does now also save us, and it says parentheses, not the putting away of the filth of the flesh, but the answer of a good conscience toward God. And then it's going to continue, by the resurrection of Jesus Christ. So I want to read that again. I think a lot of people, they'll take that and they're like, oh, see, you gotta be baptized, in order to be saved. So I want to read that again. The like figure whereunto even baptism does also now save us, by the resurrection of Jesus Christ. So, who is gone into heaven and is on the right hand of God, angels and authorities and powers being made subject unto him, so unto Jesus. So, yeah, I think that's really important stuff to kind of focus on. And I did do the whole chapter 3. I thought I was gonna leave one out, but yeah, I did do the whole chapter. And I think I actually went longer than I wanted to, but it's all good. It's all good stuff that we want to know and all that. So yeah, that is basically tackles part of the roles of women, and you got some of the roles of men as well that God has given us. So the role God has given to women, be in subjection to the husbands, and the role God has given to men, honor the wife. And we'll continue talking about those 2 roles later, because there are additional information I do want to cover on that. So anyway, hope you guys have a great day. Bye. Hey, it's a shame point to the word. This will be part number 5 of marriage and roles God has given us. So we're going to be in 1 Timothy chapter 2, and also Titus chapter 2. So the header for 1 Timothy chapter 2, starting in verse 9, says guidelines for women. So we're still on the topic of roles for women, though it will kind of bleed over. It'll talk about some of the men, roles of men too. Don't mind my dog; she's whining. So I hope that doesn't interrupt you guys, but she's kind of dramatic. Yeah, so it will bleed over, and That'll be all right though. It's good to have that, repetition. So, starting verse 9, 1 Timothy chapter 2, guidelines for women. In like manner, also that women adorn themselves in modest apparel or clothing, with shamefacedness and sobriety, not with broided hair or gold or pearls or costly array. So basically, you don't, want to, be like the world. You want to be, humble and just very modest. And then it continues and says, but with which becometh women professing godliness with good works. Let the woman learn in silence with all subjection, but I suffer not a woman to teach, nor to usurp, or maybe override, not to usurp authority over the man, but to be in silence. For Adam was first formed, then Eve. So that's how God created it. And Adam was not deceived, but the woman, being deceived, was in the transgression or sin. So, we already covered, Genesis, chapter 2 and all that, and, covering, it'd be Genesis, chapter 3, that, Eve was deceived. So, and that's not to say, men can't be deceived, but, it's just really focusing on, the roles God gave us. So, God gave, woman to be in subjection to, man, and, that man should have that, leadership, and, we're responsible for the, women and our wives and stuff like that. So, notwithstanding, she shall be saved in childbearing if they continue in faith and charity and holiness and sobriety, with sobriety. I apologize again for my dog. You followed me in here. So now we're going to go to Titus chapter 2, which is a couple of books to your right, and we'll cover verses 2 to 8. So it says that the aged men or older men be sober, grave, temperate, sound in faith, and charity and patience. The aged women likewise, that they be in behavior as becometh holiness, not false accusers, not given to much wine, teachers of good things, that they may teach the young women to be sober, to love their husbands, and to love their children. So I think verse 4 is really important, to teach, and that's the role of, older women. And so, we just went through, 1 Timothy, where it says, let the wives, be, I'll just flip back to it. I want to make sure I quote that right. Yeah, so it says, like, not to usurp or override the authority of man, so, like, that's not to say that women can't teach anything, which it's good to bounce back and forth, because, it's like a, giant puzzle piece, you complete the picture. So, if we go to Titus now it kind of, piggybacks off that and says, hey, you can teach your, children and, stuff like that, or actually younger women to be sober, to love their husbands, and to, love their children. And so, yeah, older women should be teaching the younger women, and likewise, older men should be teaching younger men. That's what, I'm trying to do with my younger son right now. He's, my 6-year-old son. I'm trying to teach him these things. So we've actually already been over this. We're, probably a couple of videos ahead. So, like, where, my kid's at, we're a couple of videos behind. So he's currently in the book of Proverbs, chapter 31, the virtuous woman kind of thing. So, that's where we're at there. So, I really want to teach, him, what to kind of look out for and stuff like that. So, Zoe, sit. Sorry about that. All right. So, and they may teach the young women to be sober, to love their husbands, to love their children, to be discreet, chaste, keepers at home, good, obedient to their husbands, that the word of God be not blasphemed. And now it's going to talk about young men, and that's all right. Young men likewise exhort to be sober-minded in all things, showing thyself a pattern of good works, in doctrine showing uncorruptness, gravity and sincerity, sound speech that cannot be condemned, that he that is of the contrary part may be ashamed, having no evil thing to say of you. And so I think we actually, in the last video, kind of talked about that. I talked about like Daniel and Joseph. So yeah, just it's cool how it kind of covers back, and how it more than once reiterates those kind of things for us. So it's really important that we do that. So yeah, I'll cut it there, and then we'll head it. Still cover the roles of women. I'll stop there. I hope you guys have a great day. Bye.
Hey, it's a Shane Point to the Word. This will be part 6 of marriage and roles God has given us. I have my dog outside. I apologize for all the interruptions that were in the video last time. Didn't really think that one through. So so now she's like outside, so all good. So this will be the last one of the role of the woman. So we're going to be in Proverbs 31. It's going to start in verse 10 and go through verse 31. So basically, this is just a little context. This is like a mother teaching a king, King Lemuel. So it has a lot of good stuff in here, and we did touch upon like the older women teaching the younger women. So yeah, this is really good stuff, and this is usually like a go-to for I don't know, like I always hear like for a husband or for a wife, like this is always like a go-to, like this is what you want to strive for for a wife. So anyway, Proverbs 31 chapter 10, the header is praise for a good wife. Who can find a virtuous woman? Virtuous means good, morally good. So who can find a good woman? For her price is far above rubies. The heart of her husband does safely trust in her, so that he shall have no need of spoil. She will do him good and not evil all the days of her life. She seeks wool and flax and works willingly with her hands. She is like the merchant ships. She brings her food from afar. And so I'm like teaching my son all this, and we actually, today, we're actually going to be right on the mark. So the last half of this chapter I'm planning on teaching my son today. So yeah, now we're I was teaching my son like so much, so like he was so far ahead, but now I try not to go through too many verses with him, so it's kind of funny now. So now we're gonna be like all even after this. So anyway, I was teaching my son yesterday about this, because to him, a 6-year-old, it's like, how do I explain a merchant ship to him? So yeah, I'm like, it's kind of like just like a semi truck, like a Walmart truck bringing food or whatever, like goods to and from the store and all that. So yeah, so basically she's like a merchant ship. She brings her food from afar, so she's a provider. She rises also while it is yet night, and gives meat to her household and a portion to her maidens. That'd be like like her servants, workers, that kind of thing. So she rises up, basically while it's still morning, and she takes care of her household, stuff like that. So, I don't know. I think that's amazing. Like, I don't know. You kind of think of, I don't know, like at least for me, growing up, I've seen like, my grandma, growing up, or like my wife's grandma, they'll, wake up, super early, usually before, if, a whole bunch of families over for an event, they'll wake up, really early, get stuff going, like, cooking and stuff, I mean, like, kind of reminds me of that, what I mean, like,
I don't know. I know, like, people compare, how it was, you know, for like people, who like, grew up in like, the 40s or, or stuff like that. So I'm kind of rambling, but it just reminds me of that. Like, I can think of a few, people who are like that, who, a few women who, wake up, early and, care that much about their family. So that reminds me of this. Um, so yeah, she wakes up while it's early. She considers a field and buys it. With the fruit of her hands, she plants a vineyard. She basically uses a bunch of strength, like she strengthens her arms. And then she perceives that her merchandise is good. Her candle goes not out by night. She lays her hands to the spindle, and our hands hold the distaff. So I looked that up, and it's basically like for now, like a sewing machine. I was reading that to my kids, and I'm like, let me look this up. So, and I don't know about other versions. I don't know, what the word says there, but I read the King James version. I'm not saying you have to. It's just what I prefer, and I tend to memorize things easier with this version. Yeah, like for my kid, what I'll do is I'll have like the King James version Bible, and then on my phone I'll pop up or pull up YouTube, and then put a New King James version. They have a dramatized audio, so it has like actors and stuff, and so I'll put that and I'll cast it on the TV. So then I'll have like a verse read on the audio Bible on the TV. Then I'll pause it, and then I'll read here. So like my kid like hears it twice, like two verses like twice. So anyway, so yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't know what other versions say, but yeah, this staff is basically like a sewing machine out now. She stretches out her hand to the poor. Yea, she reaches forth her hands to the needy. So it's a woman who cares about the poor. So that's always good, and that's a sign of humility. I keep going back to this, but it's true, and yeah, I guess you could say some proud people do that too, but I don't know. Like usually, I guess that's depends on how genuine a person is. So, she is not afraid of the snow. For her household, for all her household are clothed with scarlet. She makes herself coverings of tapestry. Her clothing is silk and purple. Her husband is known in the gates when he sits among the elders of the land. She makes fine linen and sells it, and delivers girdles unto the merchant. So there's a lot of like stay-at-home moms, right now, especially with the time we live in, like, and I mean, like the husbands will basically work, and then stay-at-home mom kind of thing, which is crazy hard right now, and only getting harder by the day. But usually in that situation, and that's not the situation I'm in. Like I wish it were, but it's not. But some people I think of like that are in that situation. They have like a side gig kind of thing. So what I mean, they'll like sell products, or what I mean, so like that kind of thing. So it kind of reminds me of that. What I mean, so she. It says that she makes clothing, or fine linen, and sells it, and that kind of thing. So strength and honor are her clothing, and she shall rejoice in time to come. So and also to go back, the man is in other teachings that we've done. It says that the woman is to, be in subjection to the man, and the man is to, honor his wife. You know what I mean? And so you give her honor. So that kind of goes back to this. And it says in verse 26 now, she opens her mouth with wisdom, and in her tongue is the law of kindness. She looks well to the ways of her household, and eats not the bread of idleness. So that's another thing too. So she's not a lazy woman. Like, she's always doing something. Like, she's always working, and she knows that she has things that need to be done. So her children arise up and call her blessed, her husband also, and he praises her. So I think that's kind of cool. So like I said, we're focusing on the woman, and her roles right now, but it's cool because now we can kind of see, the kind of back and forth. Like, the woman is, doing all these things, and now her children arise up and call her blessed, and her husband also, and he praises her. And that's awesome, and that's very, needed. You know what I mean? And not for the wife to, do it to, receive that. You know what I mean? Like, that's not that she would have the, that motivation, like, oh, I want to do this so I get my praise, that kind of thing. But you know what I mean? Like, she's, doing all these things, and he praises her, the husband. And that goes both ways too. You know what I mean? Like, we're not supposed to do things to be seen of men. So, something that Jesus said. And in verse 29, many daughters have done virtuously or are good, but thou excellest them all. Favor is deceitful and beauty is vain, but a woman that fears the Lord, she shall be praised. So this woman is teaching, her son, like, hey, favor is deceitful and beauty is vain, but a woman that fears the Lord, she shall be praised. So that, like, you know what I mean? Like, that verse, that's awesome. Like, like, beauty is vain. Like, and we read, like, Peter covered it. I can't remember the other one, but I don't know if that was in, I know it was in, like, 1 Peter 3. I know Peter covered it, but there's another one that, it said, not, don't worry about, your hair or, the jewelry and all these things, like, and this just, like, and who knows, like, maybe they got that from the Old Testament, maybe they got that from this verse, I don't know, but, that just, really, you have all these things that, stack up, like, that just, validate what, Peter was saying. So, yeah, that's great. I'm going to read that again because that's really insightful. Like, favor is deceitful and beauty is vain, but a woman that fears the Lord, she shall be praised. Give her of the fruit of her hands, and let her own works praise her in the gates. So, yeah, that's awesome. I love that. And, I'll cut it there. And then the next video will be on the roles of men. Hope you guys have a great day. Bye. Hey, this is Shane Points to the Word. This will be part number 7 of marriage and roles God has given us. So this will actually be talking about the husbands, and it'll actually be the last video because there's a lot of stuff that, like, bleeds over from, like, husbands and wives. So a lot of the stuff I've covered on the past 2 videos, or past few videos, I should say, about the women, actually, like, go hand in hand with what they talked about with the husbands. So this will basically just be like a review. So there'll be a few new verses too. So, like, this video isn't just incomplete, or I mean, it's not just all review, but there are some new things too. So so in the book of Proverbs, chapter 18, verse 22, it says, whoso finds a wife finds a good thing and obtains favor of the Lord. And Proverbs chapter 12, verse 4 says, a virtuous woman is a crown to her husband, but she that
ashamed is as rottenness in his bones. So basically, someone who makes her ashamed, is something that, a man will, find rottenness in his bones. So, and there's a few verses too that actually just jogs my memory. I don't have them pulled up, but basically something to the effect of a contentious woman like will make a man like want to go to like the roof of his house or something like that. So there's a few verses like that, and I totally get that. It's hard to live with a woman who is contentious like that, and obviously vice versa, a man who is not having or performing the roles God's given them. What I mean? Like it's going to be the same way for a woman. So that obviously works both ways. So. So this stuff also in the book of Colossians, chapter 3, that's in the New Testament. So starting at verse 18 through 21, it says, "Wives, submit yourselves unto your own husbands, as it is fit in the Lord. Husbands, love your wives, and be not bitter against them. Children, obey your parents in all things, for this is well-pleasing unto the Lord." And it says, "Fathers, provoke not your children to anger, lest they be discouraged." So, that kind of, it recaps everything because, husbands love your wives, wives submit to your husbands, that, really repeats itself. But, it does add to, a role of a father too. And, haven't really talked about, children and stuff like this, but, in passing, I'll probably hit on it a little bit. Fathers, you don't want to, provoke your children to anger at all. And that's something, I need to work on too, because I don't know, like, as a father, I like, I like to pick on my kids and stuff. And so, like, kid, I've one on the way. So like, I have a 6-year-old son, and we like to goof around, and I like to pick on him, but there gets a time where he reaches his limit, and it's like, okay, I need to stop. But sometimes it's funny because when he's angry, I like to make him laugh, and so I don't know, like I need to really work on that, to kind of find that limit, and just okay. Let's kind of, ease off the gas and, not provoke them to anger. So, it's something I need to work on. Now it'll be like basically review, things we've already talked about. So, going back to 1 Corinthians, chapter 11, verse 3, basically sets up everything for the roles of everyone. So, "But I would have you know that the head of every man is Christ, and the head of the woman is the man, and the head of Christ is God." So, like we said, it's, Jesus Christ, man, and then, woman, and that's, the roles God has given us. And that, shows, how the, basically how the church is. So the church submits to Jesus Christ, and therefore the picture of that would be the woman submitting to man. So, I'm going to go back to Ephesians 5, and there'll be verses 21 to 26. "Submitting yourselves one to another in the fear of God." So again, it works both ways. "Wives, submit yourselves unto your own husbands as unto the Lord. For the husband is the head of the wife, even as Christ is the head of the church, and he is the Savior of the body. Therefore, as the church is subject unto Christ, so let the wives be to their own husbands in everything. Husbands, love your wives, even as Christ also loved the church and gave himself for it." So that's the picture right there. "That he might sanctify and cleanse it with the washing of water by the word." And then just going, what it says with husbands and stuff. Just basically, the wives be in subjection to the husbands. And husbands, love your wives, like, and give honor to the wife, and that she's important to him, and the wife is to one that the husband is, responsible and all that. So I'll read 1 Peter 3 again. Likewise, you wives, be in subjection to your own husbands, that if any obey not the word, or don't obey the word, they also may, without the word, be won by the conversation of the wives, while they behold your chaste conversation coupled with fear. And then, it just keeps talking about, how a woman, should, dress and stuff like that. Just, don't be like the world. Like, the world is so focused on, beauty and, Hollywood and, all the commercials we see. It is so just engulfed with, beauty and self, and, as we read in the last one, that fades. We're talking about in, Proverbs 31, how, the woman was, talking to her, son, the king, and she's saying that, beauty fades. Like, it's, you might be happy or, in carnality, for a season, but, like, that's not, for a long-term relationship and stuff like that, a marriage, like, that's not how you should base your, picking, a wife. That's not how you should do that. And I get it, like, how, 8 years ago, when I wasn't saved, like, that's how it was, or I should say 7 years ago, I'm sorry. But, you know what I mean? Like, before I was saved, like, that's, how you gotta pick a girlfriend. She has to be hot, she has to be attractive, good looking, that's all I cared about, what I mean, is all, just visual, like, that's all I cared about, and so that's how the world is. They only go on appearance, and so, we don't want to be like the world, that's basically, extra or, additional kind of thing. So, and we see it in the world all the time, you know what I mean? Like, like, even, when I was growing up, like, Playboy, like, Hugh Hefner was, like, the biggest thing, and, you know what I mean, this old guy would, would, like, be, marrying, like a, 20-year-old or, whatever, like, and that was, like, the model of the world, you know what I mean? Like, that's what you want to, shoot for or strive for. You want to just, have a, trophy wife, or, you know what I mean? And so, like, and how demeaning is that to the woman, too, you know what I mean? Like, to be, shown around and stuff like that, and I don't know, like, it's not how, we in the church should be. Like, that's not the picture we want, to have, and, to represent, and, Jesus Christ and stuff. Like, that's not how it should be. It's far more important to, have a relationship where it's fulfilling, and, to have, these traits of, what we talked about in past videos of, a virtuous woman, and, the traits of a man, a loving, husband, and, someone who cares about his wife, and, has the role that God's given them, and, to, have that leadership, and, have that responsibility of the wife, you know what I mean? And so, now it's just, basically both, roles, in the world are, the role of the man, and that's it. Like, there's no woman role, biblically speaking, like, in the world. It's just the role of the man, you know what I mean? Like, the woman needs, basically try to be the man in the whole, world and stuff like that, be the breadwinner, and, work and stuff like that. And I'm not saying that's, wrong. It's just not the correct role that God has, given us. So, you know what I mean? And so, I don't know. I'm not, I'm not, condemning anyone for, like, women out there who, that's what they have to do to survive. Like, it's difficult world out there. Like, it's not the 1940s or 50s anymore where a husband can just work, and a wife can be at home, a stay-at-home mom, and do what she needs to do. The role God's given her, it's not like that anymore. Like, inflation and whatnot, like, has made it so difficult. Like, it's hard to survive. Like, unless you have a particular situation where you already have been provided things, like by your family or something like that. But like, starting from scratch like that that's a hard thing to achieve. So anyway, I'm rambling, but yeah, I don't want to condemn anyone for having to do what they have to do. Um, I understand. There's women who are divorced, or like single moms out there. I get it. Like, I don't mean in no way to condemn any of that. I'm just saying, biblically speaking, the role God has given us, that's the best case scenario. So yeah, I'll end it there, and this will conclude the series. So hope you guys have a great day. Bye.